And we are back. In this video I share my optimal F1 23 Australia setup. My focus for this race setup in F1 23 for Australia was to create a setup that gives you a high amount of top speed because of the long straights since the track has been modified. Also, with this setup you have good rotation to steer in for the corners without the rear end wanting to slide out. This combination worked very well on Australia in F1 23, making the car feel incredibly easy to drive. Let's get started. As stated in the intro, I went for a setup with a higher top speed. Since the track has been modified, you have a lot of long straights. From turn 6 to 11 you are almost at full throttle, and from the straight up to turn 3, a high top speed is also very important. Therefore, you will notice that my setup is focused on a high top speed. This worked very well for me during a 50% race on career mode, because this way I could overtake very easily on these long straights, and it was very difficult for my opponents to pass me because my top speed was too high. Of course, then it is still important not to lose too much time in the last sector. This is quite a twisty section, and here it is important to have a car that rotates well. I got the rotation from the differential and the suspension because I didn't want to drive with higher wings to achieve a high top speed. The key with this setup is that the car rotates very well, but is always balanced. The rear of the car doesn't want to slide out, and therefore you can go on your throttle with a lot of confidence. Another thing I noticed is that the curbs from Australia also feel different from the previous games. In F1 22 you could drive over the curbs in turn 1 and 9, but now it feels a bit more difficult. Fortunately in turn 10 you can still send it over the curb. Try to do this because it makes you a lot faster. Again, the car is very well balanced and you can push lap after lap with this optimal F1 23 Australia setup. Before we look at the setup, I want to quickly mention for my Dutch viewers that my setup is written out in Dutch on the website highlevelsimracing.nl, so you can check out the setup there as well. Now let's take a look at my full F1 23 Australia setup. I've opted for 24-23 wings. This is a lot lower than most setups. Differential is set at 50-51. Camber and toe is minus 2.8, minus 1, 0.05 and 0.25. Suspension is at 26.2, 5.1 and 35.38. The brakes at 156. If you notice your rear tires are locking up, then you can increase 56 to 57 or maybe even 58. The tires at 22.5 at the front and 20.3 at the rear. If you notice that the temperature of your tires gets above 104 degrees, you can lower it with 1 or 2 clicks. If you want to stay updated with all my F1 23 setups, remember to click the like button and subscribe for more F1 23 setups.